I need you people to wake up and critically think and stop believing this shit that you see on TikTok, okay?
You mean to tell me you believe that this man is making your Birkins in China? If he's a Birkin artisan, then I'm an astronaut.
Astronaut Hermes, once untouchable, now falters into one of the most stunning controversies in luxury fashion history. The French giant, long admired for its sophistication, exclusivity, and that legendary Birkin bag, is suddenly under siege. Not from reviewers or regulators, but from the very workshops that claim to be producing their premium products. Reportedly, Chinese suppliers have stepped forward with proof, literally and figuratively revealing the reality behind what they...
It starts with 30 distinct cuts of leather and can take 20 hours to complete, 4 hours for just the handle. Put the finishing touches on a Kelly, the most difficult bag to build. Artisans rely on their training and muscle memory to make every bag.
It starts with 30 distinct pieces of leather and demands 20 hours to complete, 4 hours for just the handle. Add the final touches to a Kelly, the most intricate bag to assemble. Craftsmen rely on their skill and ingrained habits to create every bag, saying eating it is Hermès' deepest mystery, the true cost of extravagance, and it's not attractive. These suppliers are claiming that the staggering $38,000 price tag placed on some of Hermès' most desired handbags is a complete sham. According to them, the actual production expense of these bags lies somewhere around $1,450. That's not. An error, 450, a markup of over 90%, and here's where it gets even nastier.
You can continue to expose all of these retailers. Nobody's going to care.
I am about to crash.
Y'all would never catch me in nothing fake. No fake earrings, no fake bracelets, no fake shoes, nothing fake designer. It's gonna be a no for me.
Out.
These same suppliers assert they've been making these bags for years. Not counterfeits, not replicas, the genuine article. The implication that Hermès isn't exactly the French-made fantasy it purports to be is that they're not. Just discussing numbers, they're detailing materials, describing sewing techniques, and even disclosing shipping timelines. The entire luxury framework built around Hermès' image of painstaking artisanal mastery is being dismantled thread by thread, and people are taking notice.
They're listening.
Have you all seen that TikTok by the Chinese guy exposing how luxury goods are actually made? The only real difference? China ships the products to Europe, slaps on a made in France or made in Italy label, and boom, luxury? It's ridiculous.
This isn't a small blog gossip or a niche Reddit speculation. These accusations are hitting global newsstands. It's the kind of revelation that makes buyers wonder, what exactly are we paying for? Talent or prestige? The vision of a French craftsman toiling over a Birkin in a sunlit atelier is being replaced with images of factory assembly lines in Shenzhen. And the worst part is consumers are starting to believe it.
None of the brands these creators mention, Louis Vuitton, Prada, Chanel, especially Hermes, need to go to China for production. And here is why. Labels like Made in France and Made in Italy comes with strict restrictions. And brands at that level don't risk compromising that. It's just not worth it.
That's why this disclosure isn't just problematic. It's devastating for Hermès because once people stop believing in the fantasy stops being worth $38,000. And what did Hermès do in response? If Hermès thought silence was precious, they clearly discarded that strategy the moment this scandal erupted. In a bold and, some say, desperate attempt, Hermès unleashed a barrage of lawsuits against the suppliers, making...
These are pieces of artwork. These artisans train years and years to make one of these bags.
Fabrice is doing the last stitching on a Kelly bag. A Kelly takes around 13 hours to be made, depending on the materials that we make it. Our artisans, they need to do 4 years of training to be able to manufacture a Kelly bag.
Bill Hermès says, made in China, does it feel cheaper? No, that's not a quality issue. It's luxury brand washing.
Hermès, you guys, it's time to show off your factories. No, I don't want to wait to go on YouTube and watch a beautiful documentary and show them off right here on TikTok. Let the world see. Okay, get like China. You gotta be ghetto about it. Just let people know.
These allegations, the fashion titan is charging them with intellectual property violations, trade secret infringements, and outright defamation, and just like that, the conflict began. But here's where it gets fascinating. Instead of denying the supplier's involvement completely, Hermes is pursuing them legally, asserting that even if they did produce anything resembling Hermes goods, it was unauthorized, off-record, or counterfeit. They're reinforcing the brand's official story that every Hermes product is handcrafted in France by elite artisans who train for years before even touching a Birkin. That narrative is the foundation of their pricing approach.
Does anybody have the Louis Vuitton from China and a Louis Vuitton that they got at the designer store? Because I need to see a side-by-side. I have to know if there's any discrepancies or any differences, or is it the exact same thing? Because I'm starting to feel ripped the fuck off right now. I got a closet full of this shit that I paid thousands for. And you're telling me it's all been made in China and I could have just gone straight to China and gotten this shit? It just can't be the same. It cannot be the same. And if it is, damn, we all got played. Well, not all of us, but a lot of us. Seriously, please don't tell me I got played. I refuse to believe that there's no difference.
A lot of demands do Hermes do, and it's the cornerstone of their reputation. And let's be honest, reputation is everything when it comes to extravagance in a strongly worded public declaration. Hermes reaffirmed its commitment to heritage, craftsmanship, and the exceptional benchmarks of French luxury. The lawsuits themselves were filed across multiple territories, signaling that this isn't just a PR maneuver, it's warfare. They want to discourage any other factory informant or whistleblower from ever speaking out again.
Had a lot of requests, do Hermes next. And that's why we're here in the Highland Park Mall in Italy. Made in China. Or maybe made in Chile. Oh yeah, that should be a thing, by the way. I have spent over $100,000 of my own money dissecting luxury bags, cutting them open, analyzing every stitch, every layer. Why? Because I had to know what made those bags so expensive.
But behind closed doors, sources say Hermes is panicking because these lawsuits introduce a whole new set of problems. If the accused suppliers fight back and provide evidence, Hermes could be forced to reveal more about its internal operations than it ever intended. Think supplier agreements, material sources, even production line audits, if any of that.
It's made in China. I can get that for $12. Go outside and touch grass. Some of you guys feel like this is your moment to shine and you can finally stick it to people that buy luxury goods without like even fact checking anything about any of this information that you're being fed from these factories or people with these TikTok videos which seemingly have false information, everything from pricing to the bags. Like, I just don't understand. A lot of these luxury brands own their own manufacturing and source product from farms that they own. Hermes owns its own tanneries and crocodile and alligator farms, has workshops in France, and most bags are made by a single artisan. So go ahead and buy your DH-Gate bag, whatever bag, and see how it holds up over the years. Trust me, Hermes is not concerned.
Ends up in court. The brand's opulent image could suffer a permanent hit. And don't forget, Hermes is suing in the very regions where these suppliers function. It's risky, because if even one Chinese court rules in favor of the factory and not the fashion house, it could set a precedent. Other suppliers could be emboldened to come forward, and the whole fragile ecosystem of luxury allure could collapse. The lawsuits may be framed as a defense of intellectual property, but they're also a defense of reputation. Hermes knows that if this story escalates, it could lose the one thing it can't manufacture: trust. And that wasn't the only problem. The internet didn't just react, it exploded within hours. Of the Chinese suppliers' exposé spreading hashtags like Hermes fraud and luxury deception were trending globally. TikTokers were sharing side-by-side comparisons of $38,000 Hermes bags and nearly identical versions reportedly made in the same factories for under $2,000. Instagram influencers who once flaunted their Hermes collections suddenly went silent. YouTubers who reviewed high-end fashion were now criticizing Hermes with fiery titles like "I got duped by Hermes" and "The secrets they hid from us." Consumers weren't just stunned, they were furious. People felt betrayed for decades. Hermes cultivated an image of deserved luxury, a brand that stood for time, expertise, and rarity. But now the entire mystique seemed like a mirage. The idea that customers were paying the cost of a down payment on a home for a bag that reportedly cost less than a plane ticket to produce a gut punch. And this wasn't just fashion enthusiasts throwing tantrums. Financial analysts, cultural commentators, and even former luxury brand consultants weighed in. saying this could mark a crucial moment for the industry, a reckoning. Suddenly, the price tag wasn't about prestige. It looked like outright robbery. Everywhere you turned, someone was asking, is any of this stuff actually worth it? Is luxury just a well-crafted fantasy? Are we really paying for quality? Or are we just paying to feel superior to everyone else? The public wasn't asking for refunds. They were demanding explanations. And the longer Hermes stayed vague, the worse it got. And just when it seemed like things couldn't get more chaotic, they did. Hermes may have taken the first blow, but they weren't the only ones in the crosshairs. The moment this scandal went viral, the luxury fashion world started trembling. Suddenly, Louis Vuitton and Chanel, Dior, and Gucci were being dragged into the same blistering spotlight. If Hermes was reportedly outsourcing to China while claiming their products were handcrafted in elite European ateliers, then who else was doing it too? And here's the twist. Some sources started murmuring that Hermes wasn't an anomaly, it was the standard. Fashion watchdogs, YouTube documentarians, and even TikTok factory workers began suggesting the same thing, that several top-tier brands were outsourcing components, cutting corners, and using the same overseas suppliers, while charging consumers exorbitant prices. With the Hermes controversy now public, the floodgates opened. Suddenly, Chanel's $10,000 coat didn't look so refined. Gucci's $100 slides were questioned for being made with PVC and a logo. People began sharing evidence of literal supply chain breakdowns and factory leaks. Even customs documents surfaced on social media pointing toward offshoring and cost-cutting across the entire high-end sector. Consumers who had spent years building loyalty to these brands were now feeling deceived. Loyalty turned to skepticism. Pride turned to humiliation. The conversation shifted from "what bag should I save for?" to "what on earth have we been paying for?" And the ripple effect didn't stop there. Shareholders started raising alarms. Boutique sales plummeted suddenly. The luxury industry wasn't just navigating a scandal, it was facing an identity crisis. But that wasn't even the most crucial part. You want to know just how bad things got? Look no further than China, one of Hermes' most essential markets and the epicenter of global luxury sales. This scandal didn't just damage the brand, it sparked a full-on consumer revolt in the region. Sales crashed, pop-up stores stood eerily empty, and in a market where image is everything, that silence was deafening for years. Chinese consumers have been Hermes' most loyal clientele, driving demand for Birkin scarves, watches, and anything with that signature orange box. But this expose, it felt personal. Chinese buyers weren't just upset about the prices, they were enraged that factories in their own country were reportedly being used for elite Western brands, only for those same brands to claim the craftsmanship came from Paris. It was like being good enough to make the product, but not good enough to get credit for it. That cultural affront didn't go unnoticed, and as consumers in China pulled back, the numbers started to tell a terrifying story. Hermes' quarterly sales report, normally stellar, came in. Flat analysts noticed a steep decline in Chinese spending on luxury goods, not just from Hermes, but across the board. The ripple was real. More consumers started shifting toward transparent, homegrown luxury alternatives brands that were proud of their supply chain, that didn't hide behind a veil of exclusivity or sell dreams wrapped in imported tissue paper. Young buyers especially began favoring labels that offered authenticity over prestige. The old formula, mystery plus scarcity equals desire, was falling apart, and the luxury sector, which had relied on it for decades, had no strategy for what came next because now they weren't just selling handbags. They were fighting for credibility.